Uh, Welcome to the May 16th, 2024 regular meeting of the Transportation Commission. Would the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Ash.
Here.
Commissioner Creeling.
Present.
Commissioner Patch.
Here.
Youth Commissioner Yao.
Here.
Vice Chair Cagle.
Present.
Chair Reese.
Present. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comments on items not on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, the commission cannot act on items raised during the public communications, but may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed, request clarification, or refer to the item to staff. At this time, I'll open the item to public comment. Do we have any members of the public wishing to comment on items not on the agenda?
We have no members of the public wanting to provide comments. Consent calendar.
Yep. Next on the agenda is the adoption of the January 18th, 2024 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion for approval of the minutes from January 18th commission meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Would the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Ash.
Yes.
Commissioner Creeling.
Aye.
Commissioner Patch.
Yes.
Vice Chair Cagle.
Aye.
Chair Reese.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
Next on the agenda is the adoption of the March 21st, 2024 meeting minutes. Do I have a motion for the approval of the minutes from March 21st commission meeting?
So moved. I'll second.
Would the secretary please call the roll?
Commissioner Ash.
Aye.
Commissioner Creeling.
Aye.
Commissioner Patch.
Aye.
Vice Chair Cagle.
Aye.
Chair Reese.
Aye.
So moved.
Okay. This is going quick. Next on the agenda is an item for commission consideration, downtown Walnut Creek Transit Signal Priority. At this time, I invite staff to provide their presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Hisham Noemi. I'm the Director of Programming. I feel like I know all of you, so I've worked with many of you before. So I'm very happy to be here and to present this item. Thank you, Smadar, for getting the presentation up. Before I start, I really want to thank your staff here, Matt and Smadar, for helping me and CCTA over the past probably 5 years now in getting this project implemented. I mean, they were really instrumental in this project, and I'm sure in many things that this city does. You all know about CCTA. I'm not going to talk about CCTA. So just as a background about TSP, as you know, TSP is just one of the tools that transit agencies use to improve on-time operations. Basically, it aims at reducing the delays at signalized intersections, and the systems do that by either extending the green time when the bus approaches the intersection, so it can pass through without having to stop for the full cycle, red cycle, or by shortening the red cycle if it reaches when the stoplight is at red. We're talking about seconds at each intersection, maybe 30 seconds up to 30 seconds, depending on the cycle length. But when the bus goes through 30, 40 intersections or more, these seconds add up and they translate into minutes, and that starts making a difference in on-time performance delay. So the real objective of this project is to improve on-time performance for transit, so more people can use it it's by itself, it's probably not going to be enough to entice somebody to use transit, but with everything else we're trying to do, including safety, including reducing fares or providing free fares, it could entice somebody to use transit, and that's really the goal. So there are many partners on this project. CCTA is one of them, but this project started basically by MTC providing a grant to the city of Walnut Creek and another grant to CCTA to do TSP in both cities. Our CCTA grant was in partnership with the city of Concord and County Connection. And between both grants, there were about $1.1 million available for this project. MTC also did the system requirements. They hired a consultant to do that for this project to describe what it needs to do at the end. Of course, the city of Walnut Creek and the city of Concord, their role is pretty important as an owner and operator of the traffic signals. There are 31 intersections, signalized intersection in Walnut Creek, and 35 in Concord that are in the project area. And County Connection, who actually asked for CCTA help with this project, operates the transit service in this area. They actually operate, as you know, in 10 cities in Contra Costa. So they never had TSP before, and they just didn't have the bandwidth or the staff to implement and maintain such systems. So they came and asked MTC to do this work. When both Walnut Creek and CCTA got the grants to do TSP, we sat together and we figured, okay, we cannot have two different systems in two adjacent cities with one transit provider. The system needs to be consistent across the whole service area. So CCTA took the lead in implementing the project. We did the procurement, the deployment, and also we're responsible for operation and maintenance through our contract with the vendor for the next 3 years. So that's just a little bit background on how CCTA got involved in this project. We just saw an area where we needed to help to close the gap, basically. So we got the grant back in 2018. Since then, as you know, we had COVID. There were a couple things that happened. One of them, FCC had a ruling where they changed what we can do with the spectrum that was supposed to be used for this project. So we switched from, after we did the system operations, we thought we were done. The ruling came out, so we had to go back and figure out what we need to do. That's when we talked about and agreed to do a cloud-based TSP system. And I'll talk about the advantages of having that system. Originally, we were thinking about just a V2X, vehicle to infrastructure type of system where you have equipment on the bus and equipment at the traffic controller, and you will have direct communication between them. That didn't work out, and I'm actually glad it didn't work out. This is a better system, I think. And I'll explain some of the benefits of this system. So after that, we issued an RFI, request for information, an RFQ, and we ended up selecting GTT, which is acquired now by MyoVision. It's a big company that does this type of thing. And we entered with the partners into a cooperative agreement, as well as a funding agreement. And the project really didn't kick off until May 2022. That's when we signed our contract with GTT to start deployment. And during that period, we were still suffering from the supply chain issues. So we wanted to upgrade the signal controllers at those 66 intersections, and it just took the supplier a long time to provide them. And once we get them, you have to test them for like 21 days, each controller. And you could only test 1 or 2 at the yard because you just don't have enough space. So that really impacted the project schedule. However, that's all done now, thanks to Matt and Smadar and their work. And we turned on the system basically in March, end of March of this year. I'll talk more about the next steps later. So as I mentioned, the goal is to improve transit travel time, reliability, on-time performance. Of course, less stops you make at the traffic signals, hopefully that will improve air quality, improve the fuel mileage on your buses. And the eventual goal is to increase, to provide a better option for driving alone by increasing transit ridership. And for CCTA, this is just a pilot. I mean, our goal is to expand beyond those study intersections in the future and beyond actually just the city of Walnut Creek and Concord. We want to implement this throughout the county in the future. So this is a picture of the project area. These are the 31 intersections. They cover the downtown area along routes 4 and 5. And for those 31 intersections in Walnut Creek, we needed to basically upgrade the communication in the controllers to make sure this system works. We in terms of the number of buses that use this route, we basically configured 15 buses along both routes. Overall, there were 31 buses that were configured to be part of the TSP system. County connection fleet is about 125 vehicles or buses. So this is just a small portion. 31 is not, it's not enough. So in the next couple months, we're actually adding 28 more buses to the fleet, to the 31 that we configured to be part of the system. So about half of the fleet, when they pass through these intersections, will get transit signal priority. So the benefits of a cloud-based system are many, but just to mention them, you really don't have much equipment to talk about. This is all software-based. As long as your controllers are upgraded and what they call NTCIP compliant, NTCIP stands to communication, internet protocol communication. As long as they're compliant, and then you're able to communicate with them. So basically, the way the system works is you have the software sitting on an Amazon server somewhere in the cloud. It gets information from the transit operator related to the schedule, the occupancy, are they behind schedule or not? And then from the bus itself, because every bus has a modem already, you'll be able to get the location of the bus every second, which is really critical for such a system to work. You really need to know, to be able to track the buses and know exactly where they are. This would not work if the information on the buses is available every 30 seconds. It's got to be within 1 to 5 seconds. And luckily, with the modem on the buses, we're able to get that every second, so you know exactly where the bus is. And as it approaches the intersection, based on the logic that you put in the software, is the bus behind schedule, or is it full, for example, or half full? Then you can decide based on the logic whether to send a priority request to the controller. And then the controller decides based on the traffic conditions at the intersection whether to grant the priority to that bus by either extending the green or shortening the red time. Or if the bus was going to go through the green without any action, then no action will be taken. So a major benefit of this is you have fewer components to deploy, maintain, or need to upgrade in the future. This could work not just for buses. If you decide in the future you want to give priority to garbage trucks or something else, you can do that. It'll be a different type of priority. The only thing you need to have is you have to know where that vehicle is, as long as you're able to track their location. I'm thinking in the future, when you have shared autonomous vehicles, then this could be another priority level you could give those if you have multiple people in the car. And it's easily to scale this type of projects. It's that if you decide to add more intersections or more buses into the project, you know, the additional 28 buses that we're gonna configure, it's gonna take the vendor a week to do that. If you have to provide hardware, it will take you a lot longer than that, and then you have to maintain it in the future. So it's easily scalable. However, having said all of this, there are cons for cloud-based systems. One of them is you cannot do it, as I mentioned, if you don't know where the buses are. You gotta know exactly where they are every second. Your infrastructure has to be upgraded. There's a cost to that. If you have old infrastructure, this system will not work. So that's why CCTA is investing $30 million to upgrade traffic signals throughout the county in the next 2 years. And this is because this is all software-based and cloud-based. You know, you gotta be careful about the security threats to the system. So you gotta have usernames, passwords, and firewalls, and so on. And your controllers, when you upgrade, they do have to be what they call NTCIP compliant. And a lot of vendors claim they are, but until you test, you really won't know if they are compliant or not. So that's the issue. So in terms of the status, we turned on the system basically on March 27 after rigorous testing at each intersection. And our 30-day acceptance period ended a couple of weeks ago on April 28. There is a requirement that the system is 99% reliable, basically, for CCTA to accept the system. So right now we're trying to figure out if that's during those 30 days, whether the system was down basically more than 15 minutes every day. If it is, then we need to find out why and repeat the acceptance testing. We're doing a before and after study to evaluate the benefits of the project. As I mentioned, we're talking about seconds at intersections, but overall, we're hoping it'll be translated into minutes in time savings for the average bus trip, basically, or journey time. And as part of our contract with GTT, with My Vision now, they are going to be on board on this project for the next 3 years to help operate and maintain the system. If the system breaks down for some reason, they're supposed to come and help us figure out why and fix it, basically. I think I'll stop here. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the commission have questions? And point of order, can I just go from right to left, or do I need to? Doesn't matter. That would help. Thank you very much. Does the commission have questions, starting with Jared or Commissioner Ash?
Thanks. Appreciate you being here. I guess my first question is, how was this route chosen, and what other routes are you considering?
It's a very good question. Typically, the way you would pick a route is you will have information about all your bus routes, and you will pick the ones where you have the most significant delays at the intersection. So, a bus total travel time consists of delays at intersections, delays at the stops, as well as the actual travel time from one point to another. You really want to focus on routes where you have significant delays and where on-time performance is lacking, basically. That's if in the ideal world, that's how you do it. But in our case, we had to focus on the routes where basically we wanted to connect to BART, and also we wanted to pick routes where the infrastructure is already upgraded or close to being upgraded, so we can test this pilot. Eventually, I mean, this will be rolled out throughout the routes. I mean, that's the idea here. We want to test it, make sure it works. Once we figure out the template and we have the funding to do it, then I think we would want to roll it out to all the routes in County Connection. But if you have limited money, limited funding, then yeah, you would focus on routes that are underperforming. You would look at the ones that have the most significant delays at the intersections, because this is just focusing on the intersection delays, not anything else.
Okay, thanks. And I'm asking for a friend, how do you get one of those modems to have, and test?
Yeah, actually, a lot of our testing that we've done before turning on the system, we had a vehicle kit. So we didn't wait for the bus to wait. No, we had a vehicle kit that the vendor put in a rental, and once that passed, that got it a green light. But yeah.
Any other questions?
Yes.
Mr. Kulig?
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I
Okay.
haven't met you because I'm new on this commission. I have a few questions. The whole topic's very interesting. And I don't know if you can share this, or maybe Smadar has it. What's the total cost of the pilot?
So the TSP component, I mean, our contract with GTT is like $240,000. It's not a lot. The major cost was the amount we needed to spend to upgrade the infrastructure. So to initially implement it cost us about $240 million, if my memory serves me right, 240,000. And then you have an annual cost. So it's about $15,000 per year for the annual cost to operate and maintain. And if you want to add more intersections or more buses, there is like a cost per intersection. I think it's between 1,500 to a couple thousand, basically, if you want to expand the pilot in the future.
So then I would imagine that GTT or MyoVision, they must have advertised some claimed efficiency we were going to get out of this. And I'm not even sure how one measures that. You guys probably know how we measure how this is working and the efficiency we're gaining. Is there something that the manufacturer, the consulting firm said, hey, you guys will get 10% more efficiency from your buses or something like that?
Yeah, there are studies that show the benefits of TSP, and what you will hear is averages of these studies. Rob probably will know more about this than me. But that's why we're doing the before and after study. We want to know for our specific area what were the benefits, and if they're not that great, what can we do to improve them, basically. Yeah.
Okay. And then the flip side of this, does anybody measure any negative impact to the other pedestrian vehicle traffic who they're going to, by extension, I guess, get longer red lights?
A great question. So whenever there is a pedestrian call, that needs to be served first, even if you have a transit vehicle. So pedestrians get priority, but side street traffic could get delayed, and that's why the before and after study is going to look at that as well.
Okay.
As there being significant delays to side street traffic or safety concerns or whatever, we will be looking at that. But the good thing about this system, and I didn't emphasize in my presentation, this is not just this is conditional signal priority. Conditional, which is you cannot do with the other systems. So you can set the conditions where you can only request priority when the bus is half full or when the bus is 5 minutes behind schedule. If it is empty or if it's on schedule, you don't send the request for signal priority. The reason we did that is we wanted to focus on throughput, people throughput at the intersection, not vehicle throughput.
That's fascinating. And then how do we get the data? How does the system get the data that the bus is half full or full?
So every bus agency, they're required to, as part of 511, they're required to provide their transit feeds to that system, showing basically how full the bus is, as well as whether it's behind schedule or ahead of schedule, you know. So that data, that's what Google uses, basically. It's called GTFS, thank you, real-time data. GTFS, Transit Feed System, I don't know what the G is for, General Transit Feed System, I think. Data, that basically Google and others use to determine where the bus is, whether they're behind schedule or not.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's just more of a comment. You mentioned it, you know, I was thinking about the vulnerability to cyber attack, and is that, you know, a way for somebody to hack into the entire signal system and say they're all red all day long as a part of a greater cyber attack? But I know you mentioned that's one of the cons to this cloud-based system is you have to worry about the cybersecurity.
Yeah, that's why we involved the IT at each city to make sure there are firewalls so the bad things don't happen. Yeah,
Right.
And also if you have to control anything, you need to have like an IP address. You cannot like go and change everything at one time. You gotta have the IP address for every equipment that's connected to the internet. And I think for Walnut Creek, they had created a separate server and a tunnel from the rest of the services in the county just for this.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Patch?
I had a clarifying question on the occupancy question. Since this is like part of trying to see if we can increase ridership on transit, do we have a lower threshold right now of occupancy for that priority? And if so, what would be the difference as we move out of the pilot?
So during the acceptance period, we basically said, even if the bus has nobody in it, you will give him priority, or so it was unconditional until we do our before and after study. If the before and after study show significant impacts, then that's when we tighten the screws basically on when we give buses priority. We could start, there are different thresholds like 10% full, 50% full, or 100% full. I forget what the threshold are, but you can change the threshold until, you know, the negative impact is gone, you know.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Commissioner Cagle?
Thank you for touching on kind of the pecking order, for lack of a better term, the PED, if there's a PED call, that's served first. And I was curious about the coordination with other systems within the city. For instance, I know we have some traffic signals that are already coordinated, and we've invested in that. And then also emergency vehicles. I believe that they also have something at intersections to give them priority. So just if you could touch on how it interacts with all of those systems.
So emergency vehicles, they get preemption, not priority. So if you get that, that's the first one to serve before anything else.
Yeah.
So that's not an issue. And right now, I think the way it's done, and Matt, correct me, I think it's through the Opticom system. So it's not cloud-based or anything. There is equipment on the bus and the controller to, once the fire truck shows up, basically, you give him a green light and you put everybody else at red. So that's not going to change. If you have a conflicting requests, then the emergency vehicle gets the preemption. Transit is like a second priority. And in the cloud-based system, you could have a third and a fourth and a fifth, depending on the classification of the vehicle if you want. So that's something you can do in the future. In terms of throwing the corridor out of coordination, which I know that was actually one of the reasons that a lot of the cities were reluctant to use TSP. They just were worried about this could throw all their work out of the window. And our response was the timing plan. I mean, there are TSP timing plan that we had to enter into each controller that basically limits how much the system can go out of coordination. And if it does, then it takes a cycle to get back in coordination. I think that's more of Matt's expertise than me. Did I say anything wrong? You want? Okay, yeah.
Sounds complicated, thank you. And then my second question was, you know, we're making this investment to try to make transit more appealing and efficient for the rider. And are we doing anything to communicate with our potential ridership?
Excellent point. I think Matt asked me to touch on that actually, and I forgot. But as part of this, as soon as we're done with the before and after study and we have something to show the public, yeah, there is some kind of a public campaign that we will do at CCTA in coordination with the cities and County Connection to let them know, hey, there is something new here, and you may not see it, but we're working towards making your ride faster, basically, and more reliable.
Great, thank you.
I had a couple of questions. You mentioned that part of the project was upgrading the infrastructure, and it might be a question to Matt or Smedar, but you put in new traffic signal controllers, or did you just upgrade the software in the controllers? Or
so in the city of Walnut Creek, it involved, in the city of Concord, it involved replacing the cabinets, the controllers themselves, and the firmware on the controller. In Walnut Creek, luckily, they have updated controllers, but we had to replace what they call the 1C cards.
Okay.
What does 1C stand for? Communication? Okay. It's, yeah.
Okay.
So it was less of an upgrade effort, but still the 1C card, they had supply chain issues. And also we had to upgrade some of the switches at the controllers and the firmware.
And so the upgrades, because I know the city is moving forward or planning to move forward with upgrading the controllers in the whole system on YVR. What we're doing now is compatible with what we've been doing on YVR and what we're planning on doing in YVR?
Yeah, that's right. So it would be, it's compatible and, you know, tying into the smart signal project, which I think we've touched on before, sort of from like the capital budget side of things. The transit signal priority is one of the items that, as part of that smart signal project, which is also led by CCTA, is you know, something that would potentially come to Ignacio Valley Road or a couple of the other corridors that were identified. So having this pilot in place, we understand how we need to configure these controllers moving forward in order for it to work.
And why this corridor and not YVR? It seems like YVR, well, I think I know the answer, but I'll let you.
Yeah, it wasn't, I mean, we went back and forth why we picked Route 4 and 5. But connection to BART was one of them. And the other one was the relative status of the controllers in the corridor, how much of an effort to upgrade the controllers. And we ultimately basically relied on County Connection to tell us which routes needed to improve in their on-time performance.
Yeah, and I'll also add to that when this project started, it was, I think the grant funding was in 2018, was maybe the grant application. And at the time, we actually had really high ridership on routes 4 and 5 too, by the way. And so they were really suitable routes that we're experiencing those types of delays. It's a good connection to BART, accessing the downtown. And so I think the idea was really just to improve on-time performance. And then the other piece is really that this was a pilot. And then also just kind of stepping back into that time period, we thought that we were going to have to invest in some substantial infrastructure improvements. And so maintaining infrastructure on Ignacio Valley Road, for example, would have been a very different task than more in like a downtown setting.
And regarding, there's the warranty for the 3 years. What happens after the warranty? Who operates and maintains it? Is
Yeah.
that, it's cloud-based, so is that just somebody
Yeah.
on the beach, or is that at 3CTA, or is that in CCTA's offices?
Yeah.
What's the vision for that?
Well, if you talk to Tim, our executive director, I mean, the vision is CCTA will assume that role. Of course, the big question is where the money is going to come from, and so that we need to solve that question. And it's not relatively large amount here, but I mean, not only will be helping monitor this system, but I mean, there will be other improvements that we are making in other cities we need to monitor as part of Innovate 680, for example. So this will be just another add-on or another part of that. So yeah, we have 3 years to figure out how is all that going to work. We can, of course, still continue with the vendor and have him extend their contract for another 3 years after that, as long as we come up with the funding, if that issue is not resolved. But yeah, it's going to take all of us. I mean, CCTA is not going to be the one making the decision. Whatever decision we make, it's got to be agreeable to both cities and county connections. So it's a collaboration effort, really. on
Yeah,
all of this.
I imagine there's a lot of work to be done regarding having a regional agency come into a local agency, and
Yeah.
the priorities that the regional agency may have may differ from the local agency, and then you compound that with all of the various cities that you have and 3CTA.
It's not going to be easy.
It's going to be complicated,
It's
so
not going to be easy.
good luck
yeah.
with that. So, any other questions? No? So with that, I'd like to open it up to public comment. Do
We have no members of the public.
I didn't get the chance to finish reading. Okay. Okay. So at this time, are there any commissioner comments? And I'd like to just start from right and just go left, if that's okay. Commissioner Rash?
I think this is great. I love CCTA and the cities working together to coordinate signals. Such a simple thing to have cities talk together about signal timing on routes of regional significance, and thinking about the BART routes. I love it. I appreciate all the work that everybody's done on all sides. But I would say look at YVR as a priority too as you go forward, and look for funding, just because it's a long route and it's connecting multiple cities and multiple parts of this county together. Thanks.
Youth Member Yao?
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate seeing like all the all the improvements to the public transit and transportation, and making transportation more accessible in Walnut Creek, so that more people have an option to explore the areas with greater accessibility. And I also really like the techniques to improve the transit reliability, making sure that these methods are reliable, and then also reducing the carbon footprint, because the environment's a great problem to consider when talking about transportation. So I think this is great, and thank you so much.
Commissioner Carlin?
Yeah, thank you again for coming out and presenting. I will look very forward to seeing the data to see how the efficacy of the program is compared to not having it.
Sure.
Commissioner Patch?
Thank you for this presentation. I really enjoyed it. I'm also looking forward to hearing the data behind the pilot program. I was just actually talking with somebody 2 days ago about the need to make sure our buses run on time and run faster. Otherwise, we're not going to have riders on them. So hopefully this works and we can continue to improve our transit.
And Commissioner Kagan.
I'll just echo the gratitude, and I look forward to hearing more about how this goes.
Yeah, thanks very much for all this. I know I asked about the YVR route and why that wasn't chosen. I actually really like the route system that you chose because I think you're going to get a tremendous amount of diversity in operations at different times of the day, different types of intersections. Some are YVR, California, and then some more in the core of the downtown. And I just think you're going to get, assuming that your before and after data program is really robust, which I hope it is, oftentimes we shortchange that piece. But I think for something like this where CCTA is looking to expand it out throughout the county and wanting to, for the lack of a better word, take control in order to have consistency throughout the county, I think the before and after data needs to be robust so that you can really understand how the program is benefiting different types of conditions. And I think that if you were to do YVR, for example, it's just straight and it's just a ton of commute traffic and it's just one type of condition, and there's so many different conditions in our county that I think this route was a good choice. I won't get into the management and the oversight after 3 years. I think that, except that I'll say that I think that that is optimistic. I hope it happens, but there's a lot of work to be done and a lot of work to be done quickly in order to, I think, to see this vision that Tim wants to achieve. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
So the next agenda item for the commission to consider is the Bike to Wherever Day 2024. At this time, I invite staff to provide their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Henry Rue, and I'm a transportation planner for the city. I'm here tonight to give you a brief update on our Bike to Wherever Day event, which we held this morning. We had amazing attendance this year. Over 40 cyclists came, and that was with a reduction of staff coming too, so it could have been even higher. We surpassed last year's attendance record by roughly 15%. We had an Energizer station out in front of City Hall at North Main and Civic where we provided snacks, bicycle equipment like lights and bells, and we also had a large amount of gift cards that were donated by local businesses to support Bike to Wherever Day. They were raffled off using that prize wheel you see in the lower picture. People could spin it, and then they get to pick what prize they want. The largest contributions were from Mike's Bikes and a Sweet Affair Bakery, but we also had generous donations from Love and Chocolate and some other local businesses. Newly this year, we were joined by the director of our sustainability team, who had her own table set up, Candace Rankin-Mumby. It was an excellent collaboration. She helped us with the setup, and she had her own materials and her own outreach going on at the same time as well. It worked very smoothly. So that was just a brief update, but you are welcome to provide your thoughts and insights. I put some ideas there if you'd like to jump off with those, or just, whatever you think, whatever you'd like to ask. Is there anything we can do to make Bike Month 2025 even better? Is there anything else you'd want to see at the Energizer station next year? And do you know of any other organizations that could be good collaborators for this effort? So I open this up to you, Commissioners. Thank you.
Commissioner questions? Commissioner Ash?
Can you come back to me?
Yeah. Youth member Yao?
Have there been any like measures to target youth for this event?
We have not done any specific youth outreach for this event. In the past, we have had a large number of kids come by on their way to school, but usually they're in a rush. They're not super inclined to stop to grab snacks. So that is a good idea. We could do some more targeted outreach, see if we can get people to come early so that they're not in such a rush, so they have time to grab some snacks. Thank you.
Commissioner Krelling? No questions. Commissioner Patch?
I have a lot of questions. I'm sure that doesn't surprise many people. So first question is, how did you choose the location for the Energizer stand? Like, was it proximity to BART or schools, or what was the consideration?
So, Bike to Wherever Day is a larger effort across the county. So there are many Energizer stations put on by different organizations. There was one at BART, there was one at Whole Foods. So the city's doing our own, and we don't want to overlap or get too close to the other ones. The idea is that we can have a nice wide county coverage, catch people doing different kinds of trips, going different kinds of places. So with that in mind, we stick close to City Hall. I believe in prior years we have tried doing it on Broadway.
Yeah, and well, in a previous year, we were doing we were conducting a study it was part of a pop-up bikeway on Lincoln Avenue, and so we had coordinated. It was just really good timing. We had coordinated the Bike to Work Day. At the time, it was called Bike to Work Day, Energizer station at that location. But historically, we've had it next to City Hall. Any cities that are hosting Energizer stations, I just saw, the transportation manager for San Ramon and the traffic engineer for Pleasant Hill. They all have them right next to their city halls. And then other organizations will host some of those bigger ones. So, for example, 511 Contra Costa, along with East Bay Regional Parks, was out at the Contra Costa Canal Trail, Iron Horse Trail intersection, which is a great location. But, some of the other larger organizations are kind of capturing those spots.
Great. Your answer also kind of made me point to my second question, which is I was on the East Bay Bike to Wherever website, and I didn't see City of Walnut Creek listed anywhere on it. Were we actually working in coordination with that? Is that just an oversight on their side?
We were working in coordination with their larger effort. Some of our supplies were provided by them. So I believe our Energizer station was on the list of Energizer stations. You didn't see it there?
No, I looked, and I did not see our City Hall one listed.
We will have to talk to them about that then, because that was an oversight.
Okay, good to know. And then, do you know why it's in the morning and not the evening commute?
So originally, several years ago, this was called Bike to Work Day. The idea is it's catching people on their way into work. I don't know precisely why that's chosen for the morning rather than the evening, but the idea is that it's coordinated across the county so that everyone's in sync. I do think in the morning you catch people fresher, they're more excited, whereas on the way home, they're more likely to not be particularly inclined to stop and talk about transit infrastructure and grab their stuff. They just want to get home. I believe that may have been some of the rationale there.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll also add to that. So this is a Bay Area wide initiative, and I mean, I think depending on the location of the Energizer station, some of them are open during the morning and the afternoon because they're just really popular spots. There's also like the other cities, for example, who did have Energizer stations. They hosted them in the morning. That's just typically what we've done. It's just, and I don't like giving this answer, but this is the way we've always done it, which is not necessarily, it's good. It could be, we have room for improvement, so we're welcome to that. We're open to that feedback.
Cool.
Rob, if I could just add in here, I am on the 511 site, and I do see that I think there's 8 stations in Walnut Creek that were open, and City Hall is on the list currently, at least. And in the evening, you can go right now. Calicraft Brewing has a station off the Contra Costa Canal Trail, so there are a mix of them on here. So which I didn't even know about this, so this is really cool. Like to look at how many stations there are in our city.
I must have been on a different website because I looked very seriously for it and saw nothing.
They have a
referencing
different
Walnut
list that's like sponsor organizations, which we are not. That might have been what we were missing from.
Creek. Maybe. All right. That's good to know. And then my last question is specifically for the promotion that Walnut Creek does of their station. Was there any consideration in making a call out for other microtransit options, or because this is part of a wider organized effort, did you just want to focus on bikes?
So we actually did mention in our promotions that other micromobility is encouraged and welcomed. I believe by name I mentioned scooters and unicycles, as examples.
Unicycles. Nice.
Yeah. So we counted wheeled transit towards those 40. I believe about 2 or 3 of them were scooters. And then we had another 25 or so visitors on foot. But yes, we are, encouraging a wider micromobility effort. It's not just bicycles. Bike tour every day is shorthand, but we welcome all micromobility.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Questions? Commissioner Ash, do you have anything else?
I just, since it's bike to wherever, is there any efforts to make to work towards the schools, particularly the high school and the middle schools? I don't know if you've ever reached out to them to engage them, or if you could pass on to 511, who I think organizes it, maybe like there could be a concentrated effort next year to bring in middle schools and high schools all over.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's kind of building on what Commissioner Yao was saying. And I think that is where you can kind of see that this is a relic of where it used to be Bike to Work Day, that it wasn't really a consideration. And now that we are widening the focus, it's a great opportunity to reach more people and include more people in the event.
Thanks for the presentation. You counted the number of people that came to your station. The other stations, do they count as well? And is there a summation of how many people they interacted with, countywide or citywide?
So
available?
each station provides their data to 511, and then they do a larger, reporting on it. I'm not sure when that will be out. It'll obviously take them some time to process it because they're not just dealing with one count from one station. They're, looking at everything.
And are you just providing them the count, or are you providing them other information such as Commissioner Ash mentioned, students, people going to work, people shopping, people recreating? How much data is collected from the people that you interact with at the stations?
Formally, we only provide the count. However, notable occurrences are something that we pass on as well. And for our own internal use, we very often, stop to talk with people. They can share their transportation concerns. We can get some great, outreach information collected from that for our own use.
Okay, thank you. Opening it up for public comment. Are there any public members here?
No, there's nobody here for public comment.
Okay. Commissioner comments? Any commissioner comments starting?
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea to include more people, encourage more people to bike, and I think it'd be great to target more efforts towards the youth, like Commissioner Ash said, making more efforts to put these stations near schools, so high schools and middle schools, and just getting the youth more involved too, because I know a lot of people at my school bike. Sometimes I bike to school too, and this would be a really cool and fun event that people could really bond over. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for working on this and, contributing as a city to, getting people to think about other forms of microtransit. And I'm glad it's open to not just bicycles. Thank you.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for doing this. It's great. Huge fan of anything that gets us out of our cars. I echo the sentiments around getting students and younger folk to do it to schools. Does not have to be just the kids. Maybe parents bike their kids to school could be one of the efforts that we do around this. And then I would also start considering having something in the evening, like maybe the stand doesn't have to be there the whole day, but I know I'm not a morning person, and so I wouldn't stop in the morning because I'm usually in a rush to be there on time, whereas in the evening, I have more time and could stop and chat. So I think that you're missing a demographic by only holding it in the morning. And then I would encourage the team to make more of an effort to make sure that it's not just like people assuming they have to use bikes. I mean, it's great that we had some people stop by, but I see a lot of people using scooters in their work commute. So if you had that few show up, I feel like there's something in the messaging that's getting lost that makes it feel like it's just for bikers. So thank you.
Just thank you for your work and the presentation.
Yeah, I just to kind of reiterate, I think that it would be helpful if we reached out to students and kind of made that a priority, because it's hard to get people to change. It's easier to get young people to change if they start out early using bicycles. I think what would be, I don't want to go down this path of like collecting 50 demographic questions about who comes to the stations, but I do think that understanding at least the age difference would be beneficial to know if this program is reaching and reaching the youth. I think that would be helpful to start to be able to measure that. I realize you're not 511, but I think it would be helpful if some of that basic information was available so you could try to be more effective each year rather than just throwing up tents and putting out tables and stuff. And yeah, I think keep up the good work. It'd be great if we could rebrand it from, bike to wherever to, I don't know, wheel to wherever, to recognize that there are other forms of transportation that we benefit from, that get people out of their cars and don't contribute to climate change. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
You sure can.
I loved the fact that you were giving safety items away at the table. That's awesome. That might be a way to get parents to encourage their kids to participate because, they care about their children's safety.
Thank you.
If I could add one more comment. This was based on the chair's comments. I agree with not trying to go too deep with the demographic data. It would be fascinating to know the person is commuting to work or some other type of trip. I'd be really interested in learning about how many people actually commute to work. I don't ride my bike to work, even though I could do it pretty much on all the trails because, pedaling along in your work clothes and then you get to work and all that goes with it versus if I'm just recreating.
Right.
So it'd be a very interesting breakdown, just commute versus non-commute. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. At this time, I'd like to invite the commissioners and staff to provide their reports on activities or announcements. I'll start with Commissioner Ash, and we'll just go around the horn.
Yeah. Thanks. I just wanted to note at the CCTA Citizens Advisory Council in multiple group stages, so we didn't hit a quorum problem. We got a tour this week of Momentum Station, which is the leading autonomous vehicle test station in the country, and got to explore some of the new technology there, got to see 5,200 acres of undeveloped property, sitting here in the middle of the Bay Area, which was kind of pristine, and wondering why is it taking so long to develop in other areas? But it was just really cool to see smart signal technologies being tested. Like, they were literally throwing fake animals at vehicles on like robot skateboards, and in one case, and we like how cars were reacting to that. We saw one known brand manufacturer like testing at different stop signs and waiting times in like circular motions, and it was just really cool to embrace the technology and to say like there is like the leading autonomous testing track in the country is like right here in our backyards for an economic development standpoint. And yeah, that was
Great, thank you. Any other reports or announcements? Commissioner Cagle?
I can give a quick report. I attended the April 26th Mayor and Chairs quarterly, I guess, meeting. And there were a couple of items that I think the commission would be interested in. The first is our police chief shared that there's a new staff person on PD in the traffic safety unit, and they're going to be stepping up enforcement on phone use and DUIs and things like that, which relates to traffic safety. And then the second was, and I actually realized I just had this in my head. I didn't even take notes on it, but it sounded like there was an update. There's some progress on the Toyota area project, the kind of mixed use project that has some various multimodal transportation elements to it. So, it would be nice to perhaps get an update for the commission on that at some point, if appropriate. But it sounds like that project is moving along, and we haven't heard about that since it was during the pandemic. I remember sitting at my kitchen table when we did a meeting with, I believe it was the Planning Commission and the City Council, to hear about that project more broadly. So, and that's
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
I can go ahead and give you an update. So the Toyota project, as of right now, it went to the City Council last Tuesday, and the council accepted some general plan amendments, and it's also like an amendment to the specific plan and some zoning changes. So part of that project, so it's not a project yet, it's sort of like a programmatic, in a programmatic phase, but it did study sort of a few different scenarios of what could be built out there. But part of that does include a component that would realize the envisioned pathway that connects between Broadway and North Main, just an additional connection through this really large block, and then go ahead and it would connect back over towards Civic to the Iron Horse Trail. So it's just an additional east-west connection that really provides another access point from the Iron Horse Trail over to BART, or to all the uses that would be in that North Downtown specific plan area.
Thank you.
Does the staff have any announcements?
We have none.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it
Ms.
okay if
Gabrielle?
I had a update, like not regarding like transportation, but about like seat at the table? Is that related? Oh, okay.
Sure.
I attended the May 7th meeting, May 7th City Council meeting, and the city like kind of reevaluated like the seat at the table program, and they decided to make it permanent. So yeah, and they were kind of like talking about how long the term lengths should be. And I tried to convince them into the 2-year, because a lot of people were leaning into the 2-year term with an option to like reapply for another 2-year term. And so I kind of like advocated for that, because I would really like to have to continue like being a part of this. However, they did decide against it. They decided to only have 1 2-year term with no option to reapply in order to encourage like more people to be involved. So I think is this the last meeting before like the summer break for the school year?
Yeah, it is.
So I think this might be my last meeting. Yeah. So hopefully you guys can look forward to another youth commissioner.
Wow. Well, thank you. I'm sorry you're leaving. You've been excellent, and really appreciate all of your insight. I wish they had have done the option for you. So, but thank you for everything that you've done. You've done an excellent job. And are you going to intern with the city?
Yeah, I asked about internship for the Transportation Commission, and I think they got back to me and said that they're like figuring it out because they've never had like a high school intern. So
Right.
I'll continue to be involved in the city. But thank you so much for giving me this opportunity and really welcoming me. And it was a great experience. So thank you.
Sure, thank you. And I'll put a positive point for having a high school intern. Our firm had a high school intern from YVR, from Ignacio Valley, and incredible. So we got a lot of positive work, and it was a great experience for everybody. So I would encourage the city to, if it can happen, I would encourage the city to take advantage of these kinds of situations.
Hey, Rob, can we recommend for outgoing commissioners, the city has a ceremony and gives a little gift? I don't know if they've done that for outgoing youth commissioners. Can we recommend to the city council, maybe just even at a city council meeting, to recognize their service to the city?
I think that's a great idea. And should we vote on that? No, we don't have to vote on it.
Like, you're not allowed to vote on it. 'Cause
But we
it's new-
aren't.
That's
'cause
new
it's-
business.
That's new
So,
business.
yes.
Okay, so that's a great suggestion. Hopefully somebody heard it.
Can I ask, have you been on 2 years?
Yeah,
Oh, well, thank you for your service.
thank you.
Okay, is there anything else? Okay, so I hereby adjourn the May 16th, 2024 regular meeting of the Transportation Commission. Our next regular meeting is July 18th, 2024, and I'll do this quietly this time. How's that?